This is a staff meeting of the Hamilton County Commission, January 21st, 2025. We have a number of items on our agenda this morning, the first of which is the America 250 update. The Clerk of Courts, Pavan Parikh, is here with some of his team members to give us an update related to America 250. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Weird to be here in the morning. I'm used to the afternoon hearing. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having us. I want to also introduce the members of our team. So I have with me Lori Jennings, who is our communications director, and Jason Alexander, who is our director of central services. But more important to this particular context, our resident historian and archivist and records keeper. And so I just want to thank you for having me today. I have the honor of having been appointed co-chair for the Hamilton County Local Committee of the America 250 Ohio State Commission by you all. My co-chair, Elizabeth Pierce, is at the City Museum Center, is traveling, couldn't be here with us today. So to get started, just a quick reminder of America 250 and our role. America will celebrate its 250th birthday in July 2026. States across the country are organizing different ways to commemorate this momentous anniversary. We have a proud history of firsts in Hamilton County for the state of Ohio, and we want to ensure that our history is recognized. Since being designated as co-chair, I've had lots of fact-finding missions to learn about what other counties and communities are doing, as well as attending the monthly local liaison meetings with the State Commission to hear their upcoming initiatives. Our office has been working with the prosecutor's office to set up a formal structure for our local committee that has been proposed to you. The committee will be providing awareness of the different resources for organizations who want to recognize America 250 in Hamilton County. We'll also be a point of contact for communities and organizations who would like to promote their events through the county's official social media channels. Anything related to America 250 could be added to a list that all the public could access and see what is coming up for the year. One example of something the committee could do would be to recommend how to implement state initiatives. For example, you should have received an invitation from the Heritage Trees Planting History Project. The goal of the initiative is to plant an oak tree in each of our 88 counties, which commemorates the 250th anniversary. There are also grant applications periodically available from the State Commission that are only available for other organizations if they are co-written between a local community and another organization. As you can see here, the State Commission has designated each month of 2026 to be centered around a specific theme. Having public meetings and the application process to join will ensure that we have a diverse group from our community engaged in spreading awareness. The first big opportunity we have to kick off an initiative to bring awareness to America 250 is coming up soon with America's River Roots Festival. It would be a great opportunity to collect stories and engage with the public on what they'd like to see in 2026. Again, the real goal and purpose of this is to have a single point of contact that we can ensure that we are collecting information and disseminating it back out into the community. And as you see from all the different themes across all the different months for 2026, this is really meant to be all-encompassing. So our goal of building out this committee of 10 to 20 people is to ensure that we've got a diverse representation from so many of these different communities that are going to be impacted by the activities that are going to be happening in 2026. So that way we can ensure that we've got our means and mechanisms of access into all those communities to collect ideas, to promote, to really look at what our local flavor is, some of our smaller communities, some of our smaller organizations. We know are already starting to plan for America 250, as well as our larger organizations. We've had preliminary conversations with the Freedom Center, the Holocaust and Humanities Center. Everyone is really gearing up, looking forward to this, because River Roots in October is going to be the first big major event that's going to kick this entire celebration off. And then as we get into January of 2026, there's going to be events happening across the state, across the county, across all of our communities, across the country all year. So I'm happy to take any questions, but first I would like to present the County Commission with this official America 250 Ohio Community flag that was sent to us by the State Commission. And where's the camera at? Here you go, camera.
Upside down. You're upside down.
And it's back.
And back. All right. Very nice.
So after we're done, after I answer any questions, would love to present that, get a photo with the flag to help promote the committee, the commitment of the commissioners, Elizabeth and myself as co-chairs, and our entire community. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much for the update. We'll look forward to continuous updates as we get closer and closer to
Absolutely.
the kickoff of all of these things. I have one question. So you talked about how there are going to be events around certain themes as the months go in 2026. Do you expect then to have like large county-sponsored or county-wide events in addition to smaller community events in some of the jurisdictions throughout the county?
I mean, I think that's going to be part of the work that we do as a committee is looking at what people are already working on, also seeing what the state is already putting their resources behind. The state's kind of what has come up with these specific categories for the state commission, and they are looking from the state commission's perspective around the state as to where they want the signature events to be. A perfect example would be, let's say Cincinnati get Sundance.
Let's say.
Let's say that happens. One of these months is specifically dedicated to arts and literature, or music, entertainment, and movies. So March is specifically dedicated to music, entertainment, and movies. So that would be an opportunity potentially with the city to combine and work on projects to celebrate that history that we have here. So right now we're really in the fact-finding phase. We're trying to figure out what organizations do exist out there that people are already starting to pull together ideas and to be that conduit. Because again, for a lot of the grants that are coming out from the state and federal committees, they're only really eligible for organizations to apply for them if they're partnering with the local commission that we're setting up.
Okay, great, thank you. Commissioner Samara Dumas.
Thank you for your presentation, and I did send my recommendation for your committee. I think there are 30 people on your that's going to be on that committee.
We're keeping it flexible right now. We haven't set a specific number. I think we want to ensure that we have a breadth of people on that committee because we want to make sure that we've got ways to get into all these different categories.
Okay, very good. And so when you start meeting, it'll be a consistent day and time so I can kind of schedule it with my person?
I believe so. We haven't really gotten that far yet. I think the first step was trying to figure out what the structure needed to look like. So that involved us talking to other counties, other cities, the state, how everyone else is set up around the state. And unfortunately, there isn't one specific way that everyone is set up. And I think part of that has to deal with just the different sizes in counties, for example. But when working with the prosecutor's office, specifically to make sure that we are abiding by public records rules, and quite frankly, to create the record, because there is a very robust record from the bicentennial from across the state from 1976. And we want to ensure that we can create a really robust public record of the work that is being done, of what we're doing to celebrate, so that way people in the future can look back at that. But we haven't specifically set down what the meeting structure is going to be, the timing, but the goal would be to make it relatively consistent because we want to ensure that the public has the ability to have plenty of notice to come bring forth their ideas and also receive information.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese.
Thank you for the update. I did have a couple questions. This committee, do you have a budget or is it the state? Do they have a budget? What is the budget?
So our goal is for this to be as shoestring as possible because really the main asset that we need to worry about right now is time and not necessarily money, because we're using this as an opportunity to get the information together and ensure that there's a good conduit for information. I think as larger projects come up to what Commissioner Driehaus was just talking about, as larger projects potentially come up and there might be a nexus and for something with the county to partner with them on, I think we would want to come to you and bring that to you to see if that's something that the county would want to get behind in funding. But as of right now, the goal is primarily just to get people there so we can get information in and out, exchange ideas.
But in terms of the state, do they have a budget? You said a lot of this is coming from the state.
I don't know what the specific budget is from the state, but yes, the state has a budget. There's an entire federal committee as well.
Can we get that? I'd like to know what the state budget is, because I saw a woman on TV that says she's with the 250, and they have a budget, and they're doing films. And I used to be the interim director of the Ohio Film Office. But she's got films in theaters, and I know the theaters are not, these are for-profit theaters. So one, I want to know what the budget is before we start talking about a shoestring, and is there something that we should be leveraging. I know that as a board, we just put in the budget again, we got large event grants as well as small event grants. And when you talk about going to these communities and neighborhoods, maybe there's something that could tie in with those who are getting some of these grants. I know Silverton got them, just different people, Forest Park. How do they maybe tie in? They got a grant, but also can they tie in with the 250? Something I wanted to put on the table. The other thing is I want to document, and I would be remiss because 250 years was not always a celebration for everybody. And one of the things that makes us, I think, unique is that we had the Ohio River, and people they were running away from the slave owners, and they had to jump into a river. I'm always fascinated how they were able to, after running from the slave owners, jump into a river. We just celebrated Dr. King yesterday, but jump into the river with no swim lessons and make it across. And had they not made it across, the person like myself and others that look like me, we would not exist. They made it across to our county, and they lived on the Ohio River banks. And one of the things I always thought was interesting is that there is no record, no documentation, no permanent fixture to talk about Bucktown. And what I'd like to see that would come out of the 250 year, not just celebrations, because it wasn't always, we didn't have the right to vote 250 years ago. There were a lot of things we didn't have 250 years ago. We couldn't read, we couldn't have education. So I don't want to, throw a birthday cake only if we're going to have real records. But I think that our county and our city played a role in freedom, not just at the Freedom Center, but in freedom. And I'd like to see us have a permanent placard at the site. One of those state or city can do it. I don't know if the county can do it, but a placard that has the story of Bucktown. Sure. That would be something that would come out of the 250 year thing. That's something that'd be permanent. That's something that people, when they come down there, and we've done it for other things, but I just want to put on the table, I'd like to see a historical marker for Bucktown on the Ohio River. And I know that's land that we as a county, we own in some parcels jointly with the city, but we own that property, and that's something that possibly we could do. So my thing is, I want to know what the state budget is to make sure that we're squeezing as much, because they will give everything. They'll give everything up to Columbus and Cleveland and all these other areas, and I want to make sure that we get our fair share. And then secondly, to see if we can utilize some of the grants and partnerships that we have and maybe tie into what the committee has put forward. But lastly, I want the record to show that it hasn't always been peaches and cream. We had to come a long way, and then document how Hamilton County has played a historical role in that.
Well, and I think that's why we wanted to kind of get ahead of this instead of waiting till even now to start talking about this. I think we started working on this about 6 months ago or so, because you're right. And that is, Hamilton County is a very historic place. And it's historic because of all the factors that you just said and going forward. I mean, just even I stand here, and Elizabeth, I think, would say the same thing if she was with me today. The fact that the co-chairs of this committee in Hamilton County are the two of us shows on some level how far the country has come in 250 years. Look at the commission. I mean, it shows how much we have moved forward, but you cannot celebrate how far you've come unless you recognize where you came from. And I think that's why we are very excited about this project, because we already have so many large assets like the Freedom Center, Holocaust Humanities Center, but also smaller groups that are invested in the history. And we have to tell all of the history. We can't just tell the good parts. We have to tell all of the history so that people understand where we've come from and to ensure that we don't slide backwards. And I think that is part of the educational component of America 250, and especially in Hamilton County, is to show this is how far we've come, but that's only because of the work that people put in to ensure that we are this far. Let's ensure we don't go backwards.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I'd like to make sure in that history, we also have a Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame For example, the song "We Shall Overcome" was written by a woman who lived here, and Dr. King came to her house. It was stolen from her, but her grandkids fought to get it back. That's within the 250 years. This is a civil rights anthem, "We Shall Overcome," Louise Sharpshire. So those are the things I want to make sure are included, but I also want to leave something behind. And I think a historical marker of the story of Bucktown and how the slaves lived there. And then when they saw it was valuable land, they ran them off. And there were a number of state laws that ran them out of there and ran them into the West End. And then there's the West End story. Right. So all those things have to be tied in as we are doing that. And so I just want to make sure that we leave something behind. The story, I had a great story when we had the meeting I didn't know about, and how we were burned down. We had a lot of stories there, but it's, if you want to go to the clerk's office, you can read it, but we got to now, like you said, get it out so that every person knows the history of the good, the bad, the ugly, and how we overcame. So I'm happy about it. I appreciate the update of it, and would love to continue to be supportive.
Thank you. Thank you again. One thing occurs to me as we've listened to other comments: how do people plug in to telling the history related to Hamilton County? I mean, is there one spot that an email or something where people can engage?
I think what we have been in the process of doing is trying to collect as many different points of contact throughout the county to try to start pushing that information out towards. We don't have that yet, and I think that step one is trying to get the commission together, because the hope is that we were going to have a diverse enough group of people that they're all going to bring, I know the Urban Heritage Society, and I know the Food Heritage Society, whatever it is. And so we can use those resources of the individual relationships to really push that information out. We're still working on that. I think our step one was we wanted to make sure that we built the commission in the right way. And then the next step is ensuring that we're going to get that information out to them.
Okay, great. Yeah, I guess so for people to plug in, and then also for people to understand what events are taking place, right? Okay, well, Ed, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to make
Commissioner?
an additional comment as it relates to history. When River Roots went around to talk to each office for funding, I clearly let it be known that the river is not a good image for everybody, and that you need to be sure to include the history of that river because it's phenomenal. So I don't know about any other groups, but River Roots took that to heart, and we'll see whether or not they do that.
And I think that's going to be a very good event because of just the sheer scale of it, to bring so much attention to even the entire project, because that's in this year, right? So that's not even in 2026. It's the first big event that's kicking this off, somewhat nationally even. And that will create a lot of excitement and information that we're going to be able to plug into with them to get that information into us and push it back out to the community.
Great, thank you. And so at whatever time there is an inflection point for you to come back and provide us further updates, I'll leave that to you and your team to figure out the timing of that, but we'd certainly like to hear you as you move through the process.
I think at a bare minimum, once we get the commission together and we can present, so you all and the public understands who the people are that are part of this, what their backgrounds are, and that we were deliberate. We're going to be deliberate in how we pull this commission together to ensure that we've got a variety of viewpoints, not just in industries, but also personal background, life stories as well, so that we don't have blind spots. Our goal is to not have blind spots as to certain points of our history.
Great.
Yeah. One other thing, I know we probably have our communications folks involved.
Yes.
But because we control the social media, the website, maybe there's a part on the website what you all we were just talking about, where people can, when we get it going, they can plug in. Like we have a 513 relief portal. Maybe there's a portal on our website that people can plug in, know how to get connected, how to get your event, and maybe can work with the commission that's being pulled together. I think would be great.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Got a flag.
And you want a photo. You want a photo. Let's do that before you leave. You want us up here?
Stand behind somebody to make this easy.
Don't let me block it.
Thank you. I think we're just I think we have to bridge it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that update. We are going to move on to the Council on Aging update. We've got Ken Wilson here. Welcome. We're looking forward to your update as well.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's really good to be with you this morning. I'm here to provide some updates and good news about the senior services programs here in Hamilton County. I am joined with Ronnie Spears, our Chief Financial Officer at Council on Aging. And we have some slides I'll run through with you. So to start, just to update you, as you know, we began managing the enrollment onto the ESP program in May of 2023. And we targeted individuals who were at high need and ensured that people that needed the services the most received those services. We had to slow the number of people we were enrolling into the program down in order to keep the program within budget. And a number of reasons for those challenges included a dramatic increase in demand and also rising cost of providing services after the pandemic. Fast Track Home, which is the program designed to meet the needs of individuals who are leaving a nursing facility or a hospital, has remained open that entire time. And I'm pleased to report that, despite our slowdown in enrollment into the ESP program, we are still enrolling a lot of older adults into services in Hamilton County. This past year, we averaged 260 new enrollments per quarter into the ESP program and 406 new enrollments a quarter into Fast Track Home. So the managed enrollment criteria that we're using includes individuals who are receiving cancer treatment, they're receiving dialysis, they're enrolled in hospice, active with adult protective services, in need of emergency home delivered meals, are nursing home level of care, in other words, a high level need person but not eligible for Medicaid, and any individual who is in the process or recently discharged from a hospital or nursing facility. And then recently we added cognitive impairments as well. Now, fortunately, the financial projections on the program are improving, and our plan is to increase the number of new enrollments during 2025. So as we always do, we continue to manage costs and look for ways that we can provide quality services and reduce expenses. Because every dollar we save means another dollar of services that we're able to provide in helping an older adult in Hamilton County. And we had a competitive proposal process this past year for electronic monitoring systems. And these are devices that help individuals who are at fall risk, may live alone. There's also other technology, for example, automated medication dispensing machines, for individuals who forget to regularly take their medications. We look for a volume discount with purchasing power across southwestern Ohio, and as a result, that led to a 20% reduction in the cost of these services starting October 1st. And I'm pleased to report we're paying under the market rate and also under the Medicaid rate for the service. So we're very proud of that. It's a very high quality service. Also, workforce capacity is really, really good. And we've seen dramatic improvement in this for individuals who are in need of an aide to come into their home to assist with things like cleaning or bathing, dressing. And as of today, there are only 32 people that are waiting for a home care aide, which that's the normal new enrollment process. That's really not, that's the normal process of bringing new people onto the program and looking for a home care aide. And this is a huge improvement over what we've seen over the last couple of years. So 2 years ago, for example, at this time, there were 730 individuals in Hamilton County waiting, or 23% of the individuals who needed home care assistance were waiting for a home care provider. We're very proud of this fantastic improvement in the workforce. This is partially driven by Aid, which recruits workers who want to help older adults, but don't want to be tied down working for a traditional home care agency. We've also seen improvement in workforce capacity with our contracted home care agencies as well. Finally, I want to highlight that we saw a reduction this year in the average cost per meal of 7%. And this was because of proactive advocacy on our part with the state of Ohio to remove an unnecessary requirement which required doctors' prescriptions for certain meals. So we worked with the governor's office in their Common Sense initiative that identified this as an unnecessary and burdensome rule. And that has resulted in the drop in that cost of per meal. So now I want to talk briefly about the Hamilton County Utility Assistance and Home Repair and Modification Program. This is funded in part through the Senior Services Levy, also Healthy Aging Funds that you generously allocated to us this past year, as well as the Hamilton County Housing Repair Program, so three funding services. Eligibility, age 60 and over, for individuals who need help with their utility bill, that they're responsible for that utility bill, and ineligible for another assistance program such as HEAP. And 300% of poverty or below. And as a reminder, this program does not have a disability limitation. It's really focused on any older adult who is in financial need and in need of this assistance. So in 2024, we completed 261 home modification and repair jobs at an average cost of a little over $3,000. The most demand jobs and repairs that we saw included stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, and other accessibility modifications that made the home accessible for the older adult. And we also had a lot of HVAC repairs and in some cases replacements, as well as plumbing. And with utility assistance, there were 961 individuals who received a credit on their utility bill. And we streamlined that process working with Duke Energy and Greater Cincinnati Waterworks so that those credits were applied to their utility bill in a really quick manner. So outreach, I want to speak a moment about outreach. We worked with all of you on the 513 relief bus, and that continues to be a very successful way of getting out to the community and reaching individuals who may not know about the needs otherwise. So we engaged in 54 events, and connected over 349 resources with individuals that met us on that bus that needed assistance. We also, as you know, partnered with you on the Healthy Aging Day Party, and we applied and received recognition for both Hamilton County and Council on Aging, a national award, Inform USA Innovation Award. So the work that we did on that 513 relief bus received national recognition for the work that we're doing there to reach older adults. We continue to take applications through our Aging and Disability Resource Center, where we receive over 3,000 phone calls a month. And we work with SOACT to provide grassroots advocacy and outreach for individuals who need assistance. We also have an outreach bureau that participated in more than 50 community events to educate the community. And we also, this past year, worked with over 200 low-income senior buildings in the area to meet older adults where they live in their senior building and making sure that they're aware of resources that are available to them. So finally, our next steps as we look forward, we want to thank you for the ARPA funds that you awarded to us in December. And I'm happy to announce that today our website is live and open for taking applications for individuals who are in need of utility assistance, home repair and modification. We also have paper copies that will be taken out, applications taken out into the community and assisting older adults on the 513 relief bus as well as other venues. And I think the timing is really good because we're, as you know, January has been a really rough month. Utility bills are going to be very high, and older adults, many of them live in older buildings, older housing, and they're going to be in need of this assistance. So on our website is the information for applying, and there's a QR code as well. I skipped a step here, and I wanted to, let me just back up for a second and say that with the Healthy Aging grants, we expended 100% of that funding, and 100% of the reporting requirements were met. And as promised, 100% of the funding went to direct service at no administrative cost. And I also want to share a story with you. We received a letter which I think represents, these are numbers, but there are real individuals that this impacts their life in a significant way. And Mrs. J wrote a handwritten 2-page letter thanking us for the care that she received because she had a non-working shower in her house and went several years without being able to take a shower until we were able to go in and repair the pipes in her bathroom to make that working again. So she no longer had to bathe in the sink with a sponge and was able to take a shower, which is something I think we all take for granted. But there are a lot of individuals out there that are living in low income, living alone, and in housing that they need just a little bit of help to get them over the hump so that they can be independent. And she took her time to thank us and thank all of you for the support that you've shown in Hamilton County. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you so much, Ken, for the presentation. It is a stark reminder to us, I think, about how important the work is that you're doing in our partnership with you to help you expand the work. I have two things. One is, part of the reason you do the work you do is to keep people in their homes, that they can age in place. And so we were seeing a trend a couple of years ago where we had a lot of seniors that were choosing to age in place if they could get the shower repaired, if they could get the lift, if they could get, Meals on Wheels to come into their homes. And so that was the preference for so many individuals. Is that still the trend for seniors, as we've moved a couple years out from that?
Yes, definitely. We're seeing unprecedented need and desire for older adults to stay at home in the community. And that was a trend that we saw prior to the pandemic, and it's even more so today because people value their independence. They want to, be in the home that's familiar to them and surrounded by, a community that loves and cares about them. And that, having that independence is really important. And, the funding that you all provide fills the gaps because the state of Ohio, invests a lot of money as well, but there are a lot of gaps. A lot of people that are not eligible for Medicaid. 90% of the older adults in Hamilton County are not eligible for Medicaid. And many of them, they need a little bit of help, so that home delivered meals is a frequent request, as you mentioned. Home repairs and modifications is another frequent request and need.
And things that are, as you say, we take for granted that seem so simple are able to keep people in their homes. So thank you again for all that you do. I have one other question. You talked about the workforce, and we heard a lot about this right after the pandemic about how the agencies you contract with were having a hard time getting staff to provide the services in people's homes. So you talked about that getting better, but you didn't say why it's getting better. And I'm curious to know, were there increases in wages? Is there more flexibility by way of work hours? I mean, if you have that kind of information, I'd be really curious to know why that's gotten better, because it sounds like something we need to build on.
Yes, there was an increase in wages, and our rates for home care went up after the pandemic, and also the state of Ohio gave out significant rate increases effective January of 2024, which also, it raised the tide, raised the benefits and wages for home care workers. That was a part of it. I think, another part of it was we slowed down the number of new enrollments that were coming into the program, which enabled the home care agencies to catch up with their staffing.
Okay.
Because they were way behind the ball when we came out of the pandemic. They were understaffed with the demand that was coming in, and we're finally back to where we need to be.
Okay, that's good news. All right, thank you. Commissioner Summer-Adumas?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And this agency is just phenomenal. You guys rock. I say that every time. And when I heard the part about you had to reduce enrollment, I was thinking there are more seniors now than ever before, but you were saying that financially you couldn't handle all of those. But then I wrote a note, finance projections are improving, and I was wondering why. And it's very simple. You explained it, that your agency advocated from within. The financial department looked at where are the gaps, where can we save money to bring in more seniors, and you had a 20% reduction in the electronic monitoring costs, and you also went and not fought with the state, but went to the state as it relates to the reduction of food costs. So if you were not getting externally more finances, you had to look within and to figure out how can we make a difference, and I just applaud you for that. That outreach project that you talked about that's in here, I attended that, and there were so many vendors, you couldn't even get around to all of them, and so that was just a great opportunity for people. I just want to say one thing, and I always say this, you guys are really good at the housing and the food costs and all, but this transportation issue is still a major issue, and I know I get concerns from one facility about, they told us we have to wait 2 hours. They said they can't get to us. And so I know you were working on that. And I know you were looking at RFPs and trying to, get maybe another transportation entity. You also had some individuals who provided transportation with their own vans or whatever. But just here to say that I'm still receiving too many concerns in general about transportation, and wanting to know what's your projection as it relates to a new transportation entity, or what are you thinking about? I know some of the drivers too, just to close. Some of them are foreign drivers, and they cannot communicate. They don't understand English. And so that presents a problem too. I've heard that quite a bit. They're from one specific country. And it's okay, but they need to know how to speak to their clients. So where are you on the transportation?
So, the transportation that we provide through the Senior Services Levy and ESP is dramatically better than what it used to be. And we've improved the whole scheduling process, and we're also contracting with a lot of small businesses here in Hamilton County that provide that quality transportation. The problem that we're seeing is that other payers are not on board with that. So that quality does not carry over to Medicaid programs, for example, or Medicare Advantage plans that are paying for transportation. And older adults experience that as they switch from one funding program to another, and there's a reduction in the quality because they're used to the higher level of service that we're able to provide through ESP. And that's something that we need to continue to work on to advocate for, because there's a tendency, especially in the Medicaid space, to go to lowest cost and not pay attention to that quality, which is so important. And as you mentioned, transportation is a very, very, very important service for an older adult who cannot get around otherwise. It's how they get to medical appointments. It's how they get out of their house and into the community. And there's still more work to be done.
Sure. Can you also give me a list of what transportation entities you're responsible for as far as Council on Aging? Because like Medicare van, you're not responsible for. I'm not going to get into specifics, but if you can let me know so I'll know who to go to for whatever transportation entity it is, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, happy to do that. You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Reese?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and showing that you've helped almost 1,000 seniors with their utilities. And certainly I know there's a lot more that needs to be done, but almost 1,000 of them were being able to stay connected because of the work of Council on Aging and the funding that we provided with you. So happy to see those results and want to see them continue. The other thing is I want to say that the 513 relief bus, and talking to a lot of folks that come to that bus, there are a lot of seniors, and it is very helpful to have Council on Aging right there to help them fill out applications on the spot and then also connect with other services. They may come for one service, but may not know about something else that you have to offer. And so your team that's been on the bus has been super helpful, and the feedback has been phenomenal, because a lot of times seniors it helps when you're coming to their community or their area. The other thing that I wanted to say is that the special days, the big senior day, which was phenomenal, the timing was very important. And I think it's even more important now because there is a lot of fraud and scamming going on among seniors. So they're being targeted. And then now with the new rules of social media where there is no fact checking and you can lie and you can scam, it's hard for them to distinguish between, is this something that is legitimate and helpful for seniors, or is this a scam? And I think it's going to be more and more harder to distinguish between the two. But one of the things, I think the timing was really good because there was a scam going on at that time targeting seniors. But by them being able to come to that event, be able to talk to people and legitimate help, funders, they knew it was a safe haven. There'd be no scamming going on there. And they were able to get a lot of assistance without having to try to figure it out. So I think it's even more important now, and would certainly love to see that in maybe your next report at a time when seniors are being heavily targeted, how important it is to have like a 513 relief bus and a senior day where seniors can feel safe to be able to share their information and fill out the application, not have to worry about their Social Security number getting out or stolen and those kind of things. So I wanted to highlight that. I think it's even more prevalent now than even maybe in the past. The other thing, so again, I see Council on Aging almost as a validator of, hey, I saw this on social media, but I'm calling you guys, is this a legitimate thing? So I wanted to make sure that if there's some kind of way to get that out before you do X, Y, and Z, you can contact a reliable source like Council on Aging. The other thing, certainly want to hopefully keep your relationship and keep your partnership with SOACT, who's been doing and reaching a lot of seniors from a trust perspective, from how to reach them, and they've been doing a lot of this on their own for I think 30 or 40 years. So finally got connected with Council on Aging. I would like for that to continue because I think we were able to reach out and reach some other citizens that we might not have been able to reach. So I would like to see that continue. And yes, it's already been talked about with the transportation. It would be great if there was a streamlined portal somewhere that could be measured, trustworthy as it relates to the transportation issue. So I'll be happy to see the information that you come back to us with. And I just want to say on the senior buildings, housing has become a big issue. Of course, most seniors want to stay in the homes they have, but those are in those senior buildings. We're seeing, drugs setting up, because they have visitors taking over the senior buildings, and seniors just not. I've been hearing a lot of complaints. They just don't feel safe. And it's just, I always say that, don't mess with my seniors. This is crazy. So I would hope that we could, be able to work on that or have some kind of report so that we could begin to maybe collectively working on those issues, because we don't need a New Jack City taking over our senior buildings. And I wanted to just put that because I've been hearing more and more complaints of fear, safety, drug activity, criminal activity, and seniors not being able to really take up for themselves in these buildings. So wanted to put those out there to you, and looking forward to continuing the work that you guys are doing, and really appreciate the work that you're doing for our senior citizens. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. And I want to thank all of you for your support of older adults in Hamilton County, because it's very clear that this commission supports and appreciates the older members of our community. And it really shows. Thank you.
That's right. We're all seniors.
Whoa! Hold on. I still got time. I'm still the youngest out here. I'm on my way, though. I'm on my way.
I'll claim it. So I just want to follow up quickly. We also talked, when you talk about transportation, about a relationship with SORTA for the through the door service. They do the curb service with access, but it is not the through the door service that so many seniors, particularly those with disabilities, need.
That's right.
Is there been progress related to that?
I'd like to come back at a future meeting and give you a more thorough update on that, because we are continuing with that dialogue, but we still have more work to do.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll bring them in with you. And,
But yes, that is the gap. That is the need
yeah.
that we see, because a lot of older adults can't access the existing public transportation system, unfortunately.
And through the door is just a more robust offering where someone goes up to the door and gets that individual out and onto the transit unit, whatever it is, because some of them aren't able to do it on their own. So, all right, well, we'll look forward to, again, there's a touch point that we would love to have an update related to seniors. The housing piece occurs to me that it's probably CMHA related when you talk about senior buildings and people with disabilities being allowed to live in those senior buildings, and that creates some issues. So more to come perhaps on that from different partners. But thank you so much for the update. Really appreciate the partnership.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Our third item is the Paycor renovation framework discussion. This is being led by Jeff Aludo.
Thank you, Commissioners. So just wanted to provide the board with a public update and overview of the discussion with the Cincinnati Bengals as it relates to the renovation and a new upcoming lease. There's been some discussion in the media of this over the past several days. What's been in the media largely reflects information that goes back in some cases several years. So I think it's important to take some time to talk about where we are as of today. Just in terms of a precursor, as the board is aware, the lease with the team expires in 2020. The current lease with the team expires in 2026. The team, as of June of this year, has the opportunity to extend that lease unilaterally on its own 2 years, and it has to indicate such to the county by June of this year, and it can do that 5 times over the course of this lease. So the county has consistently said that getting a longer-term deal done is better for the community. We believe it's better for the county, believe it's better for the taxpayers, and ultimately for the team as well, as we, which is the entire reason why the county and the team both invested in the facility condition assessment that the board received a report on, and the master plan that the board received a subsequent report on late last year. The team has provided several offers to the county, and make no mistake, just want to say right out of the gate that we believe that that is a positive thing. It indicates that the team wants to be here, it wants to invest in the stadium, it wants an additional investment in the stadium, and it does see a future here in Cincinnati. The county, for its part, there are a few reasons why the county did not accept those specific proposals. Primarily, right out of the gate, those proposals offered an extension of the current lease, which the board has been publicly open about the fact that it desires a new lease, and also the financing, the term that was offered did not fit with the county's financing parameters. So the county in turn, back in September, provided the team with a what we call a framework for a path forward for a new lease that works for the community, helps to keep the team competitive. The team indicated that they wanted to resume discussions after the season, which is where we are today, and that's where we are now. So I will walk through the framework today that we provided the team, keeping several things in mind. First of all, that this is not a term sheet. If someone from the public is watching this, this is not a term sheet. It's not a specific offer sheet. I don't plan to walk through specific negotiating points. This is a concept, as the board is aware, that sets out the boundaries for what a renovation and a lease would look like in the future, and what it should cover and contain to help guide discussions with the team. The proposed framework we delivered to the team covers both the design and renovation of the stadium complex, and just as importantly, the future operations and maintenance of the stadium. It utilizes, for folks who have been following this and they understand that the master plan was delivered to the county. We did a presentation on the master plan last year. The framework utilizes the master plan as the initial basis for this renovation plan, which still needs to be further refined. And the framework also outlines at a high level the parameters within which the team and the county will negotiate a new long-term lease. The framework attempts to lay out what we're attempting to accomplish by a renovation. So our renovation objectives, and some of this goes back to the master plan, commissioners. Some of this is a bit remedial, but that the county wants to increase the sustainability of the stadium complex and the competitiveness of the stadium comparable with other NFL facilities, to enhance the public utilization of the stadium and the public engagement associated with the stadium, to maintain and enhance the team's competitiveness, improve the ability to program the stadium for year-round events. The integration of the stadium complex with the banks, the convention center, the central business district, and also to structure the allocation of revenues and expenditures and ongoing capital costs to ensure that the stadium is sustainable over the course of the next lease. Some specific objectives as we really got into the master plan, and some of this is all laid out in the framework, just in terms of making sure that we are on the same page with the team in terms of what we are trying to accomplish specifically. And the board has been very clear that it wants increased safety and accessibility and pedestrian access and flow in the stadium. The ability to transform patron engagement, particularly at the field level and at the north end zone, improved service level connections throughout the stadium, improved circulation, improved field views, and improved walkability of the entire stadium complex. In terms of how the county and the team, the framework lays out how the county and the team would proceed with a renovation. It calls for a collaborative process between the county and the team, similar to the manner in which we delivered the $39 million worth of pre-renovation projects in 2024. The idea would be that the county would engage a design build team to manage the project, and that we would work jointly to properly scope, budget, and phase the sequence of the renovation. So some of this, again, is just setting at a very high level how we would expect to work together with the team moving forward. From a funding perspective, the idea behind the framework is that the renovation would be consistent with other renovations occurring in the league. The initial master plan vision, as you will recall from late last year, totaled approximately $1.25 billion. We've seen other renovations, renovation plans in the league, Baltimore, Carolina, Jacksonville, Cleveland, and they all range in terms of size and priority. But as a vision, we believe the master plan delivered to the county and the team is commensurate with what we're seeing in other communities. The framework that we provided to the team suggests that the county and the team now should begin to refine that vision in accordance with our joint priorities. And again, we talked a little bit about this last year. What are the specific projects in the plan that we both can agree upon, that we both believe are priorities in terms of the future vision of the stadium? And then to scale that project based upon those priorities and in accordance with our available resources. And that's really where we are right now, and I'll get to more on that in just a moment. From a budget and schedule perspective, in many ways, the framework that we provided to the team simply puts in writing what the board has already said very publicly, and that includes the county's perspective on funding the renovation. From a budget perspective, the funding for the renovation is anticipated to be comprised of fair and equitable contributions from the county, the team, the NFL, the state of Ohio, and other sources as we can bring those to bear on the project. The board has been clear that the county's sole source of funding is anticipated to be the 0.5% sales tax that was passed for the initial renovation of the stadium. So finally, I'll say a word about the lease, as the framework we provided also sets a path forward for discussing the new lease with the team. The lease with the team the current lease with the team covers a wide range of parameters. There is the term of the lease itself. There's how capital and operations are planned and funded, under what structure the stadium is managed from an operational perspective, how the stadium is utilized and leveraged for community benefit outside of game day, how stadium revenues are apportioned to address long-term operation and maintenance needs. And we know these items are all managed very differently across various leases that exist in the NFL. So the framework lays out some of the priority areas that we have indicated to the team need to be discussed in the context of a long-term lease. In the end, the county has been clear that we are seeking a market lease with the team. We realize that there is no one-size-fits-all lease amongst NFL teams. while that might make discerning a true market lease more difficult, we're confident that as we do sit down, we'll be able to find those areas in the lease that can be updated to ensure the taxpayers are getting a deal commensurate with other NFL communities, that board priorities are addressed, and that the team can remain competitive in Paycor as its home. So in terms of where we are now, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, we have had several high-level meetings with the team to begin the process of refining and scaling the renovation plan in accordance with our mutual priorities. I think these discussions have been very positive. I think there's a lot of commonality in terms of the priorities that the county and the team have for renovating the stadium. So the next steps, I would anticipate more of these discussions in the coming weeks. And these discussions will obviously be commensurate with getting discussions started, not only on the renovation plan, but also, as I mentioned earlier, on the lease itself and on the funding structure to put in place to fund the renovation and the ongoing operations of the stadium. So I'll keep the board apprised as we work through those meetings. But again, just wanted to take this opportunity to provide the board with an update as to where we are now, the discussions that we're having currently with the team, and also to provide publicly an overview of the framework that we did deliver last year to the team, which sets forth some of the guiding principles for what we think is necessary in a comprehensive renovation and a new lease. So, commissioners, happy to take any questions or any comments. I'll open it back up to the board.
Thank you, Jeff, for the update related to all things Bengals. We wanted to make sure, and we all agreed, that we have some of these conversations in public because as we move around the community, we often hear about, hey, what's going on with the Bengals? And so we recognize that people have a great deal of interest in the lease conversations and the facility conversation. And so we wanted to make sure that we were providing some public-facing updates related to both of those things. Because in the end, and I will speak for myself, when I talk to individuals throughout all 49 jurisdictions in Hamilton County, I hear about their priorities, which are keep the team here long-term, negotiate a fair market rate lease, modernize the stadium to meet the community's needs, and no new taxes. Those are the things I have consistently heard, and without exception, I can go to Cheviot or North Bend or Anderson Township or Gulf Manor or Forest Park. It doesn't matter where you are. I hear the same things about our conversations with the Bengals. And I do want to comment related to the timing then, because we had studies that were commissioned by both the county and the team in collaboration, and there were two of them. One was what I call the nuts and bolts study, which is what do we have to do to continue to maintain the stadium so that there's a good fan experience, it's safe for the fans, and also can accommodate additional activities such as concerts. What do we need to do to make sure that we are making those investments along with the team? The other plan that just came forward recently was the master plan. That is the more visionary plan. It's the $1.2 billion plan. And that one talks more about what do we vision for that facility. It's a community asset. It's owned by the taxpayers. How can we use that thing year-round to the benefit of the taxpayers? And so that's what the master plan does. And so the conversations now are in recognition that we have the baseline. The Bengals wanted to wait until the end of the season. That is where we are right now, and so now is the time to continue to have conversations, but in a more robust way. I like to tell people we always are having conversations with the Bengals. We have had a number of amendments to the original lease to make it better and more beneficial to the taxpayer. So it's not like we switch up a light off and on, and all of a sudden we're talking to the Bengals. That's not how this works. We're always talking to the Bengals. We've got people in that facility making sure that we are doing the necessary repairs to make sure it's safe and responding to the needs of the community. But we have these deadlines in front of us, namely, how do we move forward with the renovations to the facility and then the lease expiration. So, and Jeff, you mentioned it, and I want to put a finer point on it. The Bengals have the ability to extend the current lease 5 times, 2 years at a time. That is part of the old lease. That is part of the lease we are living under right now. While I will speak for myself, I don't like that provision, but that's where we are. And so the idea here is to move off of that and say, we would like to engage in a conversation to keep the team here longer. We will make investments, they will make investments, we will have funding partners through the NFL and the state, but all with the idea that that will lead to a long-term lease that's to the benefit of the community and use that facility in a way that hasn't been used before. So I don't have any questions. We've been talking about this now for a number of months. With the framework came out a number of months ago. And so I will turn it over to my colleagues. Commissioner Summerall-Dumas.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff, for your presentation. For me, as we said earlier, the lease is not okay. There are things in the lease that are workable, but there are a lot of things that need to be looked at and revised and changed. No question about it. This is a framework. It has not been, it needs to be refined, has not been approved by the board. So this is just a framework, and I'm glad that we have it. My focus right now is going to be to try to reduce that $1.25 billion cost that we're looking at for the master plan. I just think that's too much, and there are things we can do to reduce that cost. I also want to talk about accessibility, and some of the increased accessibility at the stadium will be no cost to our people if we decide to vote on that, where they can visually see the game outside in a green space and not pay anything and just have more of a community kind of look at the game. And so we want to make sure that people that can't afford to get in can be outside looking at the game. So I want to continue to work on the framework, continue to work on reducing the master plan and the cost of it, and look at what things we can do together, the board and the Bengals. I think there are some common ground. There is some common ground, and we need to continue to work toward it, because there are some elements that I cannot accept, and we're trying to be good partners and collaborate and make sure that we can come to some agreement in a timely manner. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Reese.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for the presentation. And let me just say that the feedback that I'm hearing as I crisscrossed the county and just coming out of an election and received 218,338 votes. What I've been hearing from people is that they don't want a behind the scenes, behind the curtain, closed door negotiation. What I've heard, whether I'm at Pleasant Ridge Chili and just trying to get some chili, can't get the chili without someone saying, don't let us get screwed this time. Can't go to Red Squirrel in Coleraine Township. I was leaving there, and a guy stopped me and said, "You're that Alicia Reese?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Stand up for us. We got screwed in this lease." And he even said what's going to happen is that people are going to move out of Hamilton County. That's what's going to happen. I told him, hang on. Or whether I'm out supporting a small business, trying to have a nice, get my nails done and relax. Couldn't relax to get my feet done. A lady sits right next to me, and she wants to go into the details of the lease. She said, "I'm a fan, but I don't want to pay, and I don't want that bad lease." So this is a topic. We had a commissioner, the late Todd Pertune, that's what he ran on, was this bad lease. And the people elected him because this was a bad lease. Now the people went to the polls and said, hey, we would like to have 2 stadiums, and they voted for 2 stadiums. And they're fine with that. Where they feel they got screwed is the process of where we're at right now, is the lease. And so we have to really deal with the elephant in the room. We've been all over the place, and then we end up with a headline that says Hamilton County trade default charges, but then says the team declared stadium talks useless. They said the talks have been useless. Now, the 3 of us were not allowed, and we haven't been in all the talks. I haven't been at the coffee tables and the meetings over here, and You know, I'm reading some of the emails like the people are reading the emails when they got a public records request. And so they're saying it's useless. The public is saying we got to get something different. And so we've got to get down to the real business, which is the lease. It's not the stadium. It's not what the stadium's going to look like. Now, we have to deal with the bare bones, and I think we don't have to have a negotiation to go over there and make sure that the elevators are working and the escalators are working. That should be done immediately. But as far as what is it going to look like, I don't want to, if they saying it's useless, I don't want to be running with an exercise of pretty pictures, and they saying it's useless. So I wanted to identify to the public, most people in the public have never had a chance to read this lease. They have not had a chance to read the lease. And they know it's bad, but they don't know how bad. In this lease, there's a lot of things that we're talking about that currently cannot be done. We are bound by this lease. If they want to do 2 more years, then another 2 more years, they can do it for 5 times. And wait to the last second and have us running around in circles, ring around the rosies. So there's a couple things that I wanted to point out to the public that our administrator has pointed out, I think is important in our board. Our board has taken the time to say, let's get down to the lease. They put together a framework to say, let's get down to the lease. Let's don't wait to the final seconds. Don't let the clock run out. Let's get down to the lease. According to this, it says September 17th of 2024. So how can the county be unwilling to negotiate if we put together a framework? And the 3 of us had input on it and said, let's get it going. And I'll be honest with you, I was on the administrator. He could tell you. I said, drop it off. Get it to them. I don't care if you got to ride the bicycle, the carrier, hand it to them so we can get started. So that's number 1, that we did send a framework on September 17th, 2024. We understand this ain't the final, but our board said, hey, let's sit down and get busy. This could get us started and looking at some things as it relates to the lease. Now, I want to be clear. I am a Bengals fan. I would love for us to have been going to the Super Bowl right now, still be playing. However, I'm elected as a negotiator on behalf of the taxpayers. So when people say, where are the 2 sides? Well, there's the taxpayer side. That's what we're supposed to be elected to represent. And I'm not mad at the Bengals. They got their lawyers that are paid to represent them. And in the last negotiation, the taxpayers lost. We lost. And so over here, we're trying to get a win-win. I was trained by Procter & Gamble as an intern. They said, try to get to the win-win, but not to the point where my client, the taxpayers, take a loss. We are in a lease right now where the majority funder, almost 90% or more, is the taxpayers. That would be called shareholders. But on the revenue side, the taxpayers are not in on the revenue side of anything. We know that this lease represents money because we had a Forbes, I don't control Forbes, Forbes had 400 of the richest people in the country. And only one was listed from Cincinnati and Hamilton County. It was the owner of the Bengals, who only has the Bengals. So we know there's some money in this lease. We know there's some money in this lease. This lease is upside down. This is not personal. It's not personal. When a lawyer comes in, they got to represent their client. It's not personal. We're trying to get out of an upside down lease. Everything else is irrelevant. Because if we do anything, we presented it, we tried to work, we worked with the Bengals and They came and they presented what could be done with the stadium and all those pretty pictures. But when you get to the pretty pictures, we have a team that doesn't even want to give a free watch party. So do we think they're going to do something else free for the people? They never want to do nothing free for the people. We came with a watch party and said, let's do it for the people. I came with it. And they said no, claimed the NFL told them no. I never got nothing from the NFL. I got something from their ownership. Came back with the same idea and said, we're going to do it, but now you got to pay to get in there. Didn't even want to give the people a free watch party. And you think they're going to give us some screens with a free game? Well, go to their lease. There's a section in the lease that said that they control all screens indoor and outdoor. So you think I want to give them some more screens? No, I don't. I'm trying to get something for the taxpayers. Now, that's what our goal was, but that's not their goal. Then we came back and said, hey, we'd like to get, in here paying of the rent. They quit paying rent. They've been quit paying rent. In this lease, they only had to pay the first 9 years, according to this year. And it went down every year. How many people renting right now and your rent is going down? Grandma and grandpa right now, single mom right now, mom and dad family right now, what rent is going down? And here, they only had to pay the first 9 years. And the last rent, the 9th year, was only $900,000. Now, Mr. Ludo can add to that. They put a little surcharge on everybody going to the game. And there's a little surcharge that comes back to the county. The surcharge usually is about 100-something thousand. They send a big bold letter. Here's a check for 100-something thousand. Well, when we go to the rental section of the lease, according to this lease, it costs $100,000 a day to rent the place. $100,000 a day. So the check would be short if we were charging a rental, but we're not. In here, it even talks about taxes. Right now, we're in tax season. People are struggling right now with their property taxes. Property taxes have gone up, right? People crying, trying to hold on to their house. There's a section on taxes. It says if at any time during the term of this project, if the project is not exempt from the imposition of real estate taxes and personal property taxes, the parties, I don't know who signed this, those other commissioners, it wasn't us, we wasn't here. The parties agree that such imposition shall be paid by who? The county, the taxpayers in Hamilton County. So they're not even paying no taxes. Then they went to the state on us, and this just tells you about when they say it's useless. I'm almost saying it's useless because you went to the state behind our back, not like Cleveland, who went to the state and said, we need to get some money to build and pay and take some of this burden off the local taxpayers. We went to the governor to say, hey, make sure that we're included. You weren't interested in that. You went behind our backs and got yourself exempt from paying any taxes on anything that you do for an upgrade. Now, we can't get exempted. We go to the grocery store right now and buy the eggs that's high. We got to pay the sales tax. They went and got exempt. So they're exempt from real estate taxes that's in this lease. Then went behind our back as a board. We were trying to work together. We just did $39 million with you on renovations of the seats. We thought we was working together. You went behind the backs of the taxpayers and got yourself exempt from any taxes on any type of upgrade you want to make. So we are going in the wrong direction. So I just wanted to, these are just some things. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. We're trying to work out of this lopsided lease. It's very difficult because if you're on their side, if I was representing them, I'm going to hug this lease. You can't get this lease nowhere in America. No other team has this lease. If you go somewhere else, they're gonna want 33 to 30% that you got to put in on the building. We're the only place what they call no money down. Now, why would you leave no money down and just out of the goodness of your heart say you're gonna put some money down? It's gonna have to be a negotiation, and it might get a little dicey at first. But I'm hopeful that we can get to an agreement. But yeah, section 9.3 of the lease says exterior signs. Teams shall control all advertising on or outside of the structure of the stadium complex, and even goes into stadium parking facility, including without limitation on any external messaging board. So when they showed on here, on our PowerPoint, it had Skyline on there. I love Skyline, but they got paid. The taxpayers didn't get a dime. They control it all. So we would have to make some changes, and that's what I would think our board were trying to do, is make some changes and say, how can we share the revenue, reduce the costs, and work together on a better deal. Naming rights, there's a whole section on it, page 37. We didn't even know about the naming right. We've been asking and begging and can't get no information on our own building. The taxpayer own a building and we can't. Can you imagine a landlord, you put some names on something and the landlord don't know nothing about it? And then when the landlord show up, you the renter, tell the landlord, I ain't got to tell you nothing. Naming rights, we had to find out about it in a sales agreement. In a sales agreement. Paycor selling their company got more information than the taxpayers who owns the building over there. I mean, come on. We got to have a better relationship. We're trying to get to a win-win. But the taxpayers can't take a dive. So if I was them, I probably would do the extension. I wouldn't want to get a new lease because they got everything covered. Utilities. We just had the seniors, Council on Aging just came in here. Seniors can barely pay to keep the heat on. Well, I'll tell you whose heat we is keeping on as taxpayers. There's a section, 11.4, page 39 in this lease. County shall provide for and shall purchase and pay for all utility services, including but not limited to, check this out, heat, light, water, air conditioning, sewer, gas, electricity, cable, satellite television, telephone, telecommunications, and the list goes on. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is, to me, the number one issue is this lease. And I would hope that we could get we can't do it, but our people could get in a room, come back with some changes to this lease, have a win-win, and be able to present this to the taxpayers. Now, will that be easy? No. Because if I'm them, I'm hugging to the zero down. I'm hugging to give me all the resources. I'm hugging this lease. I would tell you, what's wrong with this lease? This is a good deal. But the taxpayers did speak. They did go to have 2 stadiums, but they never voted for this. And this is what they're angry about. So we're trying our hardest, and I don't want to speak for them, I'm sure they are, but I would say this, I'm going to try my hardest to see if we can get a better deal. So the question is, has the county presented something? Mr. Ludo said, yes, they did on September 17th, 2024. I don't know about these emails. I got them like you got them. So I don't know about the conversations there. But I do know what we approved was this. And I do know that it's time for us to really bear down, because nothing you change, you build, you add, it's all in this lease. And we can't build another thing until we straighten out the relationship contractually between the taxpayers and the bingo ownership to get a win-win. Other cities are paying for upgrades. Other cities are paying and trying to take maintenance off the table. Other deals. We see people trying to work together. And I will say this, this is my position. I don't want to interpret what the taxpayers want to do and don't want to do. I'm willing to take it to the ballot and hear directly from the taxpayers. That way we don't have to guess. We can make sure we're doing exactly what they want, but they have to be educated on this lease. It has to be what this lease is in it. Is this what you want to pay? Is this what you want to do? And if they say yes, I'm willing to live with it. So if we get to that, if they want to know what do the people say, I'm willing to go directly to it. So again, we've got management, we've got revenue, and just like it was said earlier, we could do all of this and they only have to give us maybe, is it 60 days, 30 days to say they're gonna extend it? What's the timeline?
They have until, I think it's June 30th of this year, so it's a year in advance of extending the lease.
And our goal is we're trying to work as much as we can to see if we can get a new lease. But understand, public, there was a board before us, and the names were Bettinghouse, Dowling, and Nyer. It was not Reese, Driehaus, and Dumas. What they signed is decades. And if they decide to extend this, it's really not much we can do. But we're doing all that we can. So I wanted to say that because I know there was headlines and all kind of stuff, and people were asking me what's going on. But I wanted people to know, and I thank you for that. And I think the more we stay out in the public, the more the public can follow along and make their own decisions and understand what we're doing. So thank you for the presentation and the update. And where are we now? Do they have it? Do they have the framework? Not the lawyers, but the owners.
The team has that framework, Commissioner. As I indicated, where we are now is we've had several high-level meetings with the team where we've talked about getting on the same page on renovation priorities. We have staff that are going to meet to make sure that we are looking at the proposed renovation plans in terms of what actually needs to happen and when, so they can advise myself, I can advise the board, their team can advise team leadership, and then we'll get back together and figure out, based upon that prioritization, what does the actual scope of a prioritized renovation look like? What does that mean in terms of applicable funding from all the different parties? And then obviously in concert with a lease as well. So
how is that different from what you've been doing? Because they have all these, I mean, they have some strong emails on you.
How is it different than what?
Yes, how's it different?
Well, I think the main issue in the past has been that we have said from the beginning that we can't really start these formal discussions and detailed discussions until we had the facility condition assessment and the master plan together. Those are if you're going to build a house, you need to know what the plan is. You need to know what the vision is. We said we can't sit down and figure out what the plan is until we've got those documents in front of us. We received those all last year. So we have the facility condition assessment, which is the core basic maintenance work, and the master plan. We received all that by late last year. Indicated that we are ready to have those discussions. The team indicated that they wanted to wait until after the season. So now we are doing those. So that's what's really changed from maybe back in the past when some of these other communications were flying, was the team wanted to make progress right then. We said, we can't do that until we know what we are shooting for. We can't do that until we know what the plan is. And so that's the difference in the change in terms of where we are now. We actually have that plan, have something to work from.
Yeah, and the season definitely is over. So when do we move to the lease? We keep putting the lease, kicking it down the can.
We have indicated that we need to have simultaneous discussions on the lease itself as well.
Okay, and then we, one of the things I'd ask for you to present to us kind of a timetable so we can present it to the public. Where are we on that?
Yeah, so I want to get with the board on that just because I think I want to be very careful about a timetable because when you're in a negotiation, there are two parties. And whereas we may think that this is the time, we can say very specifically what the timing is as it relates to when the Bengals have to give notice, when the lease expires. But if I give a deadline for a certain issue that is a board priority, that also means that the team has to respond to that as well. And so I want to work through that timeline in accordance with what the board thinks is important, what you want to show publicly.
Okay. Well, my last thing I just want to say is I don't want to be finding out about emails and all that in public records. I don't want to be responding to news, because people think, aren't you down there? Didn't I elect you to be down there? What are y'all down there for, reading in the newspaper? There's a lot of meetings been going on, and we have not been in them. There's a lot of conversations that's been had, a lot of emails, a lot of coffees and all that. I want to, and then they jump up and say it's useless. And I didn't even know what was you meeting about. So we do have the overall thing, but there's a lot, when I read in here, there's a lot of stuff I didn't get until they asked for the public records. So I think we just need to have a better handle on where we're going. And for me, I think all these coffees and can you meet real quick and can I talk to you for a second? All that stuff, we need to be talking about the things that we've been meeting and trying to meet about. The framework, if you gave it to them in September, we should have some kind of conversation about it. So that's why I wanted to have some kind of time frame so that we can hopefully avoid just a bunch of emails that come out. And I wasn't, maybe others were familiar with them. I wasn't familiar with them. And, to get some kind of structure. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it, that the lease conversations and the facility conversation fold into one another. They go hand in hand. There is no reason to have a conversation about renovations to that facility without an understanding about the lease and what the parameters of the lease are, particularly the time frame of how long the Bengals are willing to commit in that new lease. So these two things go hand in hand. One cannot function without the other. And from my understanding, we have been having conversations about funding. Commissioner, you were in the conversation with the governor. Unfortunately, the rest of us couldn't attend that, but you were the president of the board at the time, and that was appropriate. So we're doing this on a number of different fronts. I think we're kind of flying the plane as we're building it, because there are a lot of things in play, a lot of balls in the air related to funding, related to what we need to do, related to the public, related to the lease. And so we're trying to manage all these things, but they do fold together, and they do not and they cannot move forward separate from one another. Commissioner Dumas, did you have a comment?
Sure.
Yeah.
I believe that this board is going in the right direction. It's very clear some of the points that we are not going to accept in our new lease. And all the examples that were given out as it relates to the old lease just shows how nonsensical the old list is. And we have to look at a new lease. And I believe we're going in the right direction. And as I educate myself on where we are with the lease and the team and the infrastructure, it's my responsibility to make sure those people that voted for me, those people that didn't vote for me, know that I'm giving them an educated, not opinion, but research that I've done as it relates to this stadium and the lease. And so that's what I will do to make sure it's clear for everybody. Some of it is a little difficult to understand, but the bottom line is I believe we're slow but steady. And what I mean by that, we're not just going to jump into another lease. And this old lease, we know, as I said, it's not going to work for us now. We've all said that. It's too much on our Hamilton County residents, and we're not going to take it. And so we want to collaborate, as I said earlier, to make it work. And I believe we are going in the right direction. The framework, we knew about that. Jeff had given it to us. We reviewed it, and now we're exposing it also to the public. But I think we're working diligently to make it happen, to make this lease, whether or not they want to lease or not, we know going in where we're going to go and what's acceptable to me and what I think the board. So we're not going to accept what happened before.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone, for your comments, and Jeff, thank you for the update. We have one further item in front of us. It's an executive session, and so I'm going to make a motion that we move into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G4 to discuss collective bargaining.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.